everyone would freak out, including myself on that. And now we're live. And so
Yeah,
now that we can do it on desktop, I think that's quite, it's better because we can, uh, curate ourselves better.
because otherwise we would have to like prop up our phones and kind of like, right?
Oh, people
Or
have all kinds of gadgets for that now,
yeah,
Mark.
yeah, yeah. See, I'm analog at heart, so you can see right away my analog tendencies are showing. I'm like, I'm like, get us a picture frame. Let's prop the phone up. Yeah,
Well, so I'm excited that you're joining me. This is Mark Addison Smith. I like that you have the 3 names. I assume because Mark Smith is too common.
it's very common. Yes, yes. So, yeah, Addison also was my grandfather's first name and my father's middle name, and so I like it also quite a bit as a name in there. So it kind of breaks up a little bit of the commonplace of Mark and Smith. But I do have to constantly tell folks that it's not hyphenated. People want to hyphenate it, but it's just my middle name. It's also not me being bougie. It's me being I think maybe searchable or
Yeah.
findable, perhaps.
Unfortunately, we all have to think about our SEO these days.
Yeah,
So, for everybody that's joining us, I this is only the second time you and I have ever talked. We've never actually met in person. It's only been through
yeah,
these visual things, even though, as you mentioned, you're analog. And you used to live in my neighborhood in Harlem, and now you live in Chicago.
yeah. I do. Yeah,
So,
I know, and we know a lot of the same people too. So I feel like we're very 6 degrees.
mhm.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I'm super excited that you invited me. I think this is great. It's wonderful to talk to you in this phase, but it's also, it's nice to have worked with you too and collaborated on the Query Love project.
Yeah, so for everybody who's joining, I want them to know that we put out our second volume of the QLP Quarterly. I call it the QLP Quarterly, although we've only had two in 2 years, so it's not technically a quarterly. But I figured the alliteration is too good that I couldn't pass it up. And I had always enjoyed your work, and as you reminded me, I'd actually commissioned you way back in the day for another magazine piece, but I'd forgotten that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I
So
asked
we have deep history.
exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I
So,
asked you to do, if you would be willing to work with me on providing some illustrations for the QLP Quarterly. Here is the second volume for anybody who hasn't seen it in person. It is green cover. I figured a lot of the stories have to do with grief and loss, so why not make it really vibrant and green? That's the front cover. This is the back cover,
oh
which was
yeah.
a piece that I saw on your Instagram, and I was like, "Can I please put this into the issue?" I'm gonna do a video of it later. I know I'm not one of those good people. You're really good with the animation and with all of the videos and stuff, and I need to like do a thing where we flip through and see all of the different stuff. But one of the weird things is I put this piece by you in the middle,
Oh, I
and
love that.
it's rubber banded. Did you get yours yet? I sent them in the mail. I
I
don't
yeah, yeah. I'm also like the our friends at home. I'm leaning in to look because I haven't held it yet.
Oh, you'll
And
get it. It's supposed to arrive in the mail today or yesterday. So,
yeah, I'm super excited to see it. So I'm very curious about how the layout progressed. I love the I trust you as a little I
yeah,
like that it's smaller but mighty, right?
yeah.
It's like a little you could pull that out and hang it on your fridge.
So the reason why was when I was working with my friend Charlie, who is the designer for it, we were having a lot of issues with the pagination, getting that to end up in the middle as a centerfold, and then making sure all the pages, even though we did it all the right ways and everything in our InDesign, it was giving us issues when I was trying to print. So finally, I was like, you know what? My solution is let's yank it out, make it shorter, and then I'll print those as a standalone. And then since I bind the zine with the rubber band, I, decided to put it in the middle. And then I also printed extras and I actually have been using them as note cards. So you'll see, you'll have one of those with my note on it when you get it in the mail. So I don't know. So tell
I
me
love it.
first, when I first reached out to you, you were somewhat familiar with it, I think, or you knew
Yeah.
what I was up to. What, why did you agree to participate? Let's start there.
Oh, well, I am a fan of yours.
I'm,
And so right away I was like, okay, because you emailed me, and so that was a really lovely email to receive. It's like, oh, nice. I kind of know this person, right? Or I know I have an awareness of you, and we do have some work and friend connections. So that was very flattering and very much caught my attention. And also, queer love right there. That's kind of the hook, right? I'm a gay artist. I've always been a gay artist. So any type of framing for my work within that context is really interesting to me. And I don't think you might not have known that I'm working on a new artist book that's queer themed. Specifically, the subset is gay men, but it's also the quotes are very queer and can
Mhm.
be adapted to the LGBTQIA plus community. So that was kind of like a really great serendipity with
Yeah.
your project and my own studio uh, outing, right?
Mm.
And I think I even emailed you that when I was curating drawings for the zine. Well, a lot of them, I think some of them that you are using in your zine are going to be in the artist book, but
Mm.
it felt really like an extension of the queer voices that I was assembling for my book, and that could also take center stage in your book, and it was just really gratifying to see like a different place and outlet for those voices.
Yeah, I mean, that's one reason why I reached out. I mean, I didn't want these illustrations to literally be responding to the pieces. I felt like they were an extension. And as I told you, I wanted the art in a way to take center stage because
Yeah.
I felt like you have such a strong voice that the stories would exist alongside your art rather than them being in service, which must be something that's annoying sometimes for an illustrator and artist is that you're always feeling like you're in service to other people's agendas, right?
Well, you can't, certainly you can be, and that's one style and one kind of I guess directive when you're hired for a visual assistance project, right? Um, the word it's interesting. The word illustration conjures up a lot of maybe preconceived ideas,
Mhm.
and sometimes I'll use illustration, sometimes I'll use drawing. So I mention that to say that with the work that I create, the daily drawings from overheard conversation fragments, which we'll get into, I feel like there's a fluidity of where they're existing, and I don't really. So I say that to categorize that when they need to be illustrations, they'll put that suit on and rise to the task, and then go in the conference room and illustrate. But also when they're more conceptual narratives or drawings, they kind of work in that space too, right? So yes, so I got a little detoured, but yes, there is one route or delivery where you could draw exactly what someone says, right?
Right.
Which is can serve a purpose, right? To kind of explain visually, but I like that I really appreciate that you were open to curating pieces that kind of spoke to the themes. In a way, I started thinking of my curation as dialogue that maybe some of the characters or authors of your pieces would say, right?
Mm.
And so there became this kind of maybe world building with it, right? Which was super rich to do. And I think I sent you like a zillion trillion
Yeah.
images. I think that's the exact count, right? I sent you maybe, gosh, maybe it was, I mean, it was
It was 100.
75 oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. See, I'm
Or it might
being,
have been 75, but it was a lot, yeah.
it was a lot. Yeah. And so when I sent them, I was like, oh, okay, this is probably going to like super overwhelm you. But I just had fun kind of pulling things together.
Um, I wanna show people one that I think is definitely felt that way, and you have an interesting way of drawing hair, and I was really taken with so many. I mean, I
Oh,
also
yeah.
call your lettering sometimes the hairy letters. I don't know if you call
Yeah.
them that.
Yep.
And, the "I trust you" is in that, and I was really smitten. But this one, for example, which if people can see, it actually says, "I'd like being married if I were single." And since that was about a guy who said he was the gay marrying type, I thought, "Oh, that's a really great kind of coinciding," even though it's not
Yeah.
something he would have said, it actually, uh, sounds like something, right? Like, it felt
Yeah.
like it's the same universe.
Or even like a voice in in their head too, you know. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So tell
Yeah.
us about the 17-year project, the 7,000 plus images that you have. This is this crazy project you've been doing, and that's what you post on your Instagram, which I just put in the chat in case people
Oh,
are
great.
want to see it.
Thank
And then
you.
you collected that into "You Look Like the Right Type," right? That's the book, and you also
Yeah.
just had an exhibit of it.
So the archive is, yes, it's over 7,000 drawings now, and so which is accounts for why I was able to access 75, 100, a trillion thousand to send you, right? And uh, it's a daily project that started on November 23rd, 2008, and I'll tell the quick story. I had just graduated from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where I currently teach now. I'm an educator in my day world, right? But actually, education kind of like spills into 26-hour day kind of thing too. So, well, we can talk about that. Um, uh, so I was wrapping up class. It was November. I was walking to the train. A young woman out of the thick fog darkness of Chicago came up and asked me for a cigarette, and I didn't have one to offer as a non-smoker. I felt really totally uncool to say, I'm sorry, I don't have one. Because she had read me as somebody I think who would be maybe cool enough. I like to think maybe I was read as someone who was cool enough to like have one, maybe. So I do like this idea that I was read, or I was maybe like, maybe there's an assumption, or she could have been asking everybody. I don't know. But she asked me, and I said no. And then she looked at me and she snapped her fingers and she said, "Ah, you look like the right type." And then she ran away and I never saw her again. And if she's out there, listeners, self-identify. But I thought about her, our exchange. I thought about her phrase, my ride home. And I mentioned that I had just graduated from my graduate program at SAIC, and I had been working while I was there with hand lettering that conveyed a personality and did kind of uh, cross the center line between um, visual information and illustration, right? And how could a letter become a portrait for someone, like literally like a alphabetic semiotic symbol, right?
Yeah.
And when she said that, like the idea just clicked, and I thought, oh, I need to I instinctively drew our conversation. I didn't map out it would become 17 years and I would be obsessed with this every day. But I drew our conversation. And then the next day I woke up and I was on the hunt for someone, a stranger, to say something that captivated me. And I also drew that. And then so on and so on. And I've been drawing overheard verbatim. They have to be in person. I'm very rigid with my rules, but I like to be very flexible in how I draw. And so one of the rules, or my grad students long ago said that rules are too the word rules is too confining, so they prefer parameters. So I always just say maybe the parameters. I like a good rule though, right? So the rule is that it has to be someone in person. It has to be Zoom, and social media now counts too. After the pandemic, I've opened that up, but it can't be scripted or on
Yeah.
television, right? And I have to get the quote verbatim. If I don't think that the quote is verbatim, even if there's like stammers, like or likes or stuttering, I capture all of that, and then
Mm.
that becomes what's drawn, and then collectively I assemble them into books and gallery installations between larger conversations between people who haven't met, right?
Yeah.
And so my new artist book, when you um, emailed me, when you reached out, I'm working on a new artist book that's queer themed. So it's
And that
queer
one's called
voices.
One of Those, right?
He's one of those. He's one of those. So here's the book. He's one of those. Yeah. And
Oh, nice.
the quote is something I overheard in Hamilton Heights in Upper Manhattan, where I was living at the time of the
Where I
quote.
live.
And yeah, where we were neighbors and didn't meet until like it's funny, we'll have to meet in real life.
Yes.
Um, uh, and I'm not even really sure what the context was. It was overheard at a post office, and then I thought about it, and it also became this categorical, like you're either this or that, right? And I've been working on this for quite a long time, but it became the quote became the title, which became the driving impulse for how I'm collecting the works, which is um, uh, categorization, queer categorization. You're either this or that. You're normal or you're not normal. You're special and different, or you're ordinary and boring. And a lot of that binary applies to how we see ourselves as, for me, a gay man, queer community, any kind of folks who are somewhat marginalized. They're always there, or there can be a point of comparison, right? And
Right.
so that's where the title comes from. Yeah.
And you're using this sort of very fine line abstracted face, right, with the nose. And those show
Mhm.
up in different ways. Like this is one in the zine.
Yep.
Homosexuals are responsible, respectable people. And so that's on one of the pages. I love that one. And also the same type of image with the face with the nose is this image, which I loved.
Yeah.
Where I want to hold you. So tell me how
Well,
you developed that visual style, though. Oh, what were you going to say?
really quickly, I want to tell you, I always laugh when I see homosexuals are responsible, respectable people, because I posted that on social media, and one of the comments I think was "meh," which every time I see that drawing, I think of that, right? I think of that. It's like, nah, I love that. I love that. So okay. Anyway, you were asking how I
Well,
came up
I'm
with the
curious
style.
how you've developed this visual style. I mean, you have one that is very, very simple, let's say, like meaning like it's just a line sometimes, like a contour drawing. And then
Yeah.
other times it's like haptic, it's crazy, it's like all over the place. So when do you know when it's one or the other, or how do you know, how does that
Uh,
work?
yeah. So the
Let me ask an artist how you come up with your
yeah.
ideas.
So and I'll give you the granular play by play for everybody. Yeah. Um. Uh. So the drawing style. It's funny, when I started the drawings 17 years ago. I included eyes and more structural face features, and it never really kind of clicked with the. I mean, I don't know why it didn't click for me, but it's just like my own kind of internal gravitation or pull toward a style, which I mean, that's maybe the best answer for that. But I have thought about these more um, abstracted faces, and I like that they're abstracted because the words are so specific. And I my hope perhaps would be that it makes it accessible to the reader. That, similar to the Queer Love Project, I was reading the stories you shared with me, the articles, the essays from the artists, and then I was able to, with the degree of non-specificity, mount some of the quotes from strangers onto those, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
I like that. That's kind of, without kind of overthinking it, I like that there's a little bit of a specific anonymity, you know what I mean, to
Yeah.
the style. And so that, I've always been a fan of line drawing and contour work. It's been something that maybe I've always kind of gravitated towards. So that kind of comes out here.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that some of the pieces are more like, maybe frenetic, or like, and that just kind of comes out of the energy of the quote, I think. And maybe also some of it could be just, this is not as exciting an answer, but some of it could be the logistics of time to make the drawing too. But I do have to say,
Is that one
uh,
of your parameters though? Like, do you say like, I'm not going to spend more than 20 minutes on it or?
no, no, because I was just going to undo what I just said. That if I have an idea in my head that I feel really smitten with, I'll make time to do it. So I try not to sacrifice like a visual idea for the clock, because a goal of the project. I will say though, like a really rigid framework of the project was creating something where I could draw every single day.
Yeah.
And I feel I started the project as a 1 year project. I feel like it was before these, like, Inktober on
Mhm.
Instagram, the challenges. I feel like I did it before they were in vogue, or maybe I just wasn't cool enough to
No, you definitely did
be
because the cell phone didn't exist until 2007, so we didn't have Instagram until 2000 something after
Yep.
that. So you
So
definitely started first.
it became my way to track myself and stay accountable, kind of like, an exercise plan or like anything we want to learn and become like maybe more proficient or skilled or understanding of. And so that was the 1 year kind of contract I put forth to myself. I thought, can I do this for a year? And then the year, of course, goes by so fast. And then I kind of self renewed for another year, right? And so I don't even think about it anymore. I'm so in the thick of it where when November 23rd comes around, I don't ask myself, am I going to continue for another year? I just keep going because it's so interesting to me, right?
Well, I saw one of the people who's joined the conversation. His name is Clint Collide, and he actually has sort of a daily practice. And I do think that it helps one focus one's attention when you do have that. And often my students, when they'll ask me, well, how do you get better at writing? Or how, and I tell them, like, you need to write every day. And
Yeah,
I hate saying that because obviously we hate when we're like, we don't like rules and blah, blah, blah. But what I really mean is once you start thinking, I need to do this thing, you start paying attention a different way. And it sounds like that's what's happened to you, obviously, is that after you started having this as a daily practice, it changes the way you listen and then the way you look and the way what you're paying attention to, right? You might
100%.
let
Yeah.
those quotes go away before, but now you're like always have that antenna up looking for it.
Yeah. And you can build upon something you've learned that can manifest and grow. So you mentioned the hairy type. And so that's something that pops up a lot. And I do think that, yes, if you see that lettering, don't trust it. Uh, so I do think that
Also, in this one right here, by the way, can people see that?
I would like
Which
something kind of in the middle. Yeah.
that one
Yeah.
has the contour drawing and the hairy lettering
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah. And a hairy guy. Yeah. Yeah. All great things. So, uh, that with the daily parameter in place, I can really push a certain style too. So the hairy lettering isn't just a one-off for me. It's like one of many little subsets that I might pull from. So the overarching is you look like the right type, and the being on the lookout for or the listen for a quote. But then within that, there's a lot of different little styles that have emerged. I mean, I also do things with up and down, on and off light switches,
Mhm.
and yeah, and then also some of them have the contour figures, some of them don't. So there's a lot of like maybe different maybe subcategories that are emerging.
You also have another category of lettering where you do overlays where you'll have all of it. It's really almost illegible, right? Where you have to kind of discern it or you need a little bit of a map to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, and on the backs of those I always write the quote because like there's no way there's some that I did years ago and I didn't translate it and they're lost to me. I don't know what that what it's saying, but yeah. Yeah. And
Well,
those are usually done in a very fast time frame.
yeah. So I was thinking a lot about you because I knew we were talking today, and I was at the No Kings Day march in New York City, and I was really impressed by the level of artistry, graphic design, puns, quotes, and things like that. And you know, I know that there's a long history of using illustration, using art for protest, right? We have things like visual aids, which started in the late '80s, if people aren't familiar, which was dealing with HIV and AIDS, and there's been these gorgeous books and exhibitions on that. And because you teach, I wonder, like, what do you think about how art and illustration and graphic design, how those can be used as part of protest or part of a movement.
Oh gosh. Wow. Well,
Like, do
we
you
could
get
do
questions like about that from your students? Like,
yeah.
"I don't wanna make art right now because the world is on fire," and you're like, "Let's make art instead?"
Yeah. It's interesting. At the very top of the semester, I'm teaching currently an advanced graphic design class at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And it's all seniors and they're about to graduate. And of course, the world is weighing on their shoulders with wrapping up their final semester of their 4 year BFA program, but also
Mhm.
entering the world at a place where jobs are being cut. The financial systems are just crazy. It's very, I mean, it's always hard to leave one space and jump into another, but I now feels particularly heavy.
Hmm.
And so I can, you know, my students are really lovely and they're generally pretty blissful and engaged because we're at an art school and it's just a really wonderful environment at SAIC. And so we're always usually in the thick of it, you know, and a lot of times they'll be heads down into their screen or writing or working. But at the top of the semester for the project that we just wrapped on Friday, uh, we did talk about what's happening in the world and what they could possibly create as an extension or a voice. And I do sense that sometimes students want to run into that space and occupy it. And then I think other times they're like you're saying, they're like, no, I can't make work about that. That's too
Hmm.
close, right? I need some sort of other outlet. And both are fine, right? And yeah. So
But it doesn't have to be work about it, right? I mean, I think even with the Queer Love Project, I started it in 2024, and it is a form of soft resistance, in my view. Like just having stories about queer love, about saying, like, I'm not going to self censor, I'm not going to stop creating, to me
yeah.
is a form of resistance.
Yeah, and so I do think that that is where my drawings now that are very overtly muscle daddy, hypersexualized body forms, these gym rats, hairy lettering, and
Hmm.
also this idea about maybe pulling on the thread of subtext or or maybe sexualized implication with a quote and taking something that's innocent and making it a little dirty.
The
I think,
double entendre, yeah.
yeah, that's the thrill I'm getting, and I love that word that you use, soft resistance,
Hmm.
because that was the term you used, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's a really great way to look at visibility because I mean, visibility is so important, and that I think that is kind of like igniting that's lately it's been the spark to this flame of like, okay, well, I'm going to put these out. I'm going to take You Look Like the Right Type. The drawings, the detour we're going to do now is a little bit more um, overtly queer, right?
mm,
And let's see what happens. So the person might not who's saying the words might not be queer or queer
right.
identified. I don't know, but their drawing sure might be, right?
I mean,
So
I think some of the light switch ones, especially, like they have an innocence to them, but also a naughtiness.
yeah. So that certainly comes into play about how to circle back with students and finding voice and reacting against. I think that anything we can do now that that makes us feel like our voice is heard and seen is is a balm, right? And
Yeah.
it's power to put out there.
I have a question. I didn't think I was going to ask you this, but I'm really curious because I think you're a smart
Yeah.
person to answer this because I don't know the answer. Um,
Okay.
so, being a gay kid, there's a point where you try to be the good boy, right? You try to like fit in and you try to make sure you're not having people too uncomfortable or whatever. And
Yep.
then when you get to a certain level, maybe, you're sharing personal work, you're sharing yourself. I mean, you have your crazy hair, you have your look, you have your art, and
I gotta
uh
flip it. My window's open and it's blowing.
and you have but then you have students and there's this idea of like you need to be an adult and proper, or whatever. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate like the side of you, the creative side, and wanting to put yourself out there, be yourself and not censor yourself, and then also want to make sure they're going to respect you?
Oh, you mean in terms of perhaps in the classroom
Yeah.
or
Or
anywhere?
anywhere, even in your job, like you have bosses, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel really lucky to be working at an art school and in an environment where I can, wear an expressive t-shirt and funky hair and nobody says anything
Yeah.
or there's,
Or they're like,
so,
great,
and
great, we love that.
it's like, great. Yeah. Lean into it. So
Invite Mark to that meeting. We want that look.
perhaps maybe, but or also, it's I feel actually I think part of it also is I feel very welcome in the space. And so I feel very fortunate and lucky and I love that, right? But I also realize that a lot of folks don't, right? So or they might be in a situation where they have to maybe put on one sort of face in one situation and another in, then they can let their hair down or up, right? Whatever. So it's all about, finding those opportunities and places and outlets to kind of like let your light shine. A friend of mine said something that sticks in my head, which I love and I think about quite a bit, that sometimes at work they'll put on a resistance t-shirt that they wear under a sweater, right? And they know that it's on their body like a talisman, and but it might not be visual to others around them. I think
Mm.
I love that. I think about that quite a bit. You have those things, I'm sure you have those little things that people will say offhandedly, but they will resonate with you and they just become part of your thing that you think about each week. That's one of those things I think about that quite a bit. Like,
You just
yep,
made me think about something because I have this very buttoned up, preppy type of look, and I'm sure some people think that I'm just very vanilla. And yet I have my nipple pierced for that reason because I know that there's a little bit of kinky underneath all of that.
yep,
And I have a friend who's a conductor, and I think about that all the time because he has both of his nipples pierced. He's into leather and kink. And when he's in front of all the blue hairs conducting in front of an orchestra, I think they don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I like that both those things can exist.
It's a little piece of power that kicks. It's like a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Same with tattoos or anything that's like, things that can be concealed and revealed based
right.
on,
Well,
yeah.
that was my
I
next question. Do you have any? Because as an artist, I think it's hard to commit to a tattoo.
I don't know.
Uh,
It's funny. I follow a lot of tattoo artists on Instagram. And I am fascinated. I love books that feature volumes of inked art
yeah.
and also the lettering with tattoo culture and just the expressive form. And I love it all, but I don't have any.
Has
Part of
anybody
it,
of your pieces tattooed?
not that no one's approached me and said they got something. Um, so I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't know. But part of it is born out of like just and do you have tattoos?
Nope.
No. Okay. So, because I was going to ask my
It's
follow
too
up,
permanent.
really,
I'm a Gemini. I can't commit.
I was going to out myself as a bit of a fraidy cat, also, with like like the pain and what's it like and blah, 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 so there's that too. So it's the commit, but also maybe the needles. I don't know. Right.
Yeah, it's also I get a little in my head. I've actually thought about some tattoos and thought about them for years and even drawn them and figured out what I wanted. And then by the time I just never could say, is that something I could just put into a frame, put on the wall, or do I need to actually have it on my body? And I normally just don't
Oh,
need to
yeah.
have it on my body. I'm like, I'll just collect it or put it in some other, you know, I wrote a piece a couple years ago because I started noticing a lot of younger people, Gen Z or so, had really terrible tattoos, and there was this one kid who I asked him, he had like this really like prison looking tattoo on his body, and I was like, "Why do you have that?" And he said, "Well, during the pandemic, I was bored. I got a tattoo gun, and I just started practicing on myself." And I thought,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And I just started noticing more and more, and every time I would ask somebody, "Why do you have this bad tattoo, or what does it mean?" And they're like, "There's no meaning. This was about me just wanting to love my body." And I thought, "Wow, this is such a different generation." Because for me, loving my body does not mean disfiguring it with a bad piece of art.
Oh, but I am envious of that freedom. I think that is, and I also have to say, I love seeing folks with like head to toe
Yeah,
tattoos and almost to the
that
place
commit
where
thing.
they're also running out of like surface area. Where will the next one go? Will it overlap? Will things start to? So I love all of it. I'm very drawn to it. Maybe also I know that if I start with one, it will be hard for me to stop. So I
Right.
think that
And I
I
know a
think
guy who
that's
got it and he did that. Yeah.
yeah. I think maybe that if we were to turn this Substack space into a little therapy sesh, I think that
It's always a therapy session.
I think it might be that I don't want to open the door because then like the next time we Zoom, I'll be like head to toe. Wouldn't that be funny?
Just don't do it on the face. You can do it everywhere else. Stay away from the face.
Wouldn't that
Um,
be? Yeah.
well, I'm just going to mention one of our people who's joined the chat, Michael Horvich. He actually lives in Chicago. He lives in Evanston,
Oh yeah.
and
Hi, Michael. I
uh,
know Evanston. Yeah, I'm close by.
Michael actually just turned 81 this week, so I want to congratulate him on that. And I met him in real life, and
Oh,
he says
okay.
that he got his first tattoo at 70, and that it was a way to. He says, "I did it because as an old man, how often can you do something I've never done? Isn't it too great a risk? And it actually wasn't too painful." And it's on his shoulder, and it's a 1/4 inch red heart. So very cute.
Oh, I love that, Michael. That's great. I like also the like letting me and the viewers know that it wasn't too painful. That's
Yeah.
very comforting. But I also love this idea that like there's never a right time or a wrong time to do something new. I think that's so great. And I like the
I
shared
I
that it was
I wanna
from
move on
70.
because I wanna make sure you show me your visual aids, but I wanna say before, I think the other reason why I haven't been able to commit is I come from a working class family, and there was a sort of stigma about what tattoos meant at the time, and of course, that's changed a lot. But growing up, tattoos were not for certain people, right? They were for
Mm.
lowlifes kind of thing. And so I think as much as I've resisted my parents having any power over me, I think getting a tattoo and them seeing it, there would always be like, "Oh, you're just a little trashier." So
Oh, interesting. Well, then it could be something hidden,
yeah,
right?
but they
That's
have seen the
giving you
nipple
world to see.
piercing, and they never say anything about
Oh, they
it.
never say anything. They're just like, oh, it's just,
Nope.
oh, interesting. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I also know that there's that level. They'll just silently judge probably, but
Was there, well, I know we're watching the clock, but well, I'm curious with that. Was there in your world a build up to the reveal? Were you all like going on a beach vacation and you were like, oh no, what do I do? Or,
well, my parents have a pool in the backyard now, and so
yeah,
I knew I was gonna end up getting in the pool at some point, so I was like, "Oh, what am I," and they just nothing's
yeah,
ever been said.
yeah.
So
I love that. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
talk about my gayness even though I've been out for, like 30 something years. We just don't talk about it. Even though my husband comes with me. It's just not a thing. We don't talk
It's
about
just not a thing. Yeah. Yeah.
it. So you have the new book coming out. When is the actual release date? Because I need to get a copy.
So I am hoping to have them finished by the end of the summer. So I have the physical bound edition, and what I'm doing is I'm layering inside. I'll do a little show and tell here.
Yeah.
I'm layering inside some, and I haven't shown these anywhere yet. So
Yay,
this is
exclusive.
the first space. I'm layering inside stamps of
Oh,
key
wow.
words and pieces from the drawings that get pulled out, that get doubled in the book. And so this is from a quote that that originally reads, "Don't forget Kansas." And then I pulled out "Don't forget." So on the page, I'll apply like a secondary
Hmm.
layer. And then in the book, it shares a spread with another voice who's saying, "I'd stay here. I'd stay here." So I pulled out the word "here." So in the spread, the let me see if I can get this right. For yeah. So in the spread, "Don't forget here" would be kind of pulled out. So I'm trying to think about moments like secondary layers of meaning from like fragments of fragments that get pulled out, visualized, that get doubled in the book for like maybe even an extra oomph of gayness,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And
Like
will
an
that
extra.
be black or what's the color ink that you're using?
So I'm playing with color now to see, but I'm toying with a with um, an orange idea or purple, which is the colorway of
So
the
how are
summer.
you
Yeah.
publishing this book? Is it a book that you're self-publishing or is it in
It's it's self-published. So all of my artist books are endeavors that I make and create and curate and just have complete authorship over, and that they're funded through grant uh, purposes or money, or they're um, funded and made through me somehow, and then I
Mhm.
put them out in the world, and then they could be sold to collectors or artist book collections and things of that nature.
I'm gonna put your webpage link in there in case anybody's curious and wants to find. Can they find your books there? And
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So I have a couple of others that are older, that are done, that are if folks or collectors are interested, absolutely, they can email me, and I'm happy to talk to them.
so the other question, and because you have this great collection behind you, and obviously you have thousands of pieces of art, and you said you're analog, and I'm just curious, like, how do you keep yourself organized, and how do you become not a hoarder?
Oh gosh, we're gonna need another hour to get there. But actually, I think we're gonna need a second a guest star appearance by my husband,
Yeah,
who would come.
I would gladly do that
so, so he would probably have a different like answer. Um,
because I see
because
the
of
Boy
course,
George behind you. I see all the books and other art pieces and things.
this is an old library copy of Freaky Friday with an Evergory cover that I have, that I love, and I love how queer his works are. And there's also a little bit of innuendo and subtext. If it's kind of like a code, like I love queer coding. If you, yeah, to an audience that might get it, and then others that it just passes by.
Mhm.
That kind of overlaps a little bit with our conversation about things on the body that might be hidden or seen or revealed, and then the right people know and get a little wink wink. But yeah, but you were asking about collecting, and so I have a lot of stuff, and I keep adding to collections because I love paper. The classes that I teach are, for the most part, um, have an output like with printed matter or book construction or that type of creation. So I'm always like, to Eric, my husband, I'll always say, "Oh, I'm going to show this in class," or "This is going to go to my office. Don't worry." So that's when we were in New York. My joke would always be like, "Oh, this is going to go to my office. Don't worry, it'll go to yeah." And so, of course, he'll just kind of like, he's very encouraging, and he's very tolerant.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also you keep
So
it very organized so it doesn't look like a mess.
yeah, yes. It's yes. Thank you for that. Yes, it is very organized, and I know where everything is. And I also don't show everything at once. Like I have a lot of like storage containers that things will go into. So the idea is that with a collection that, like, I know that as long as I'm alive and ticking, I will acquire cool pieces of books
Yeah.
or printed matter or whatever. And that's not going to change. But the idea is, how do you cycle out things, and where do you store things? And yeah, so the things that I display are not always it doesn't represent everything I have.
Yeah.
Some of it is in a cabinet at school, or it might be like in a storage bin, in a closet. Yeah.
Well, the other answer is normally the difference between, a collection and hoarding is taste, right? And so obviously you have good taste.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That is a great, yeah, it's having an eye, because there is also like, you can't grab everything. Everything, it does have visual information and communication systems, but it is about curating, like, what do you grab, what do you not grab? Yeah,
So
yeah.
so obviously one of the things that we're talking about is the Career Lab Project, zine, the second one.
Yeah.
I actually have an idea where I wanna do these smaller books that will be like interviews, and I'll rubber band them all together, which I wanted to work on.
Oh,
You
wait,
had
can we see that again really?
these are not from Career Lab Project. This is actually the
Yeah.
Carpenter Center at Harvard. I saw these, and they're all different interviews, and they rubber banded them together, but they just have interviews inside, and I thought, "Oh, I could
Oh,
do this."
wow.
Because,
Oh, that's
I get also I think, we span that generation where we love the digital, but we also love the analog, and so I thought, "I'm doing all this
mm.
stuff digitally, but I should make little keepsakes of stuff, collectibles," right?
And what you just showed us by like fanning, and that's the energy I get from out in the wild grabbing things and collecting, because it sparks a new idea. I mean, everything in a way is inspired by something else, right? It's just
Yeah.
how do you draw inspiration and change that into your own voice and your own authentic new thing, right? So something we have gets
Yeah.
translated and becomes something new in a way very similar to someone else's dialogue that I hear, and I make these maybe these drawings that may or may not be intended for the original source, right? It's all about repurposing. Yeah, so I love that's another I think good framing of being a collector. If it inspires something,
Right.
then collect. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
No judgment on the collecting, but you were
Oh, I
asking
was going to
something, I
say
think.
one of the things you had urged me to do was to try to print an Arizo press, and I'm still investigating
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
Because I really love it, and there's so many great people doing it. I just didn't have the time, energy, or money to do it for this thing, so
Of
I'm
course.
gonna try to
Yeah.
figure out another little side project. So if there's anybody out there who wants to work with me on designing for, something with the Riso Press, let me know. And I know we're also talking about so last year, I took a piece of art that from Francis Cannon, who was the illustrator, and we have this T-shirt that says "Queer Love Project," and this was on the cover of the issue. And
Gorgeous.
I know that
Yeah.
you and I wanna do a T-shirt together,
Yes.
so we're gonna talk about that.
We
And
have to
I'm
do a
thinking
shirt. Yeah.
it needs to be the straight people I just really see this on a T-shirt, but
Straight
we'll
people
figure
are
it out.
not okay. Shout out to my bestie in LA, V Corso Ducart, V, who said that, who authored that line. Straight people are not okay.
Some of them
And
you
this is
really do
another.
remember.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's funny because yeah, I can remember how people say a phrase, and I can remember the phrase becomes a memory unlock for me to think about where I might be or what I was doing when I heard the phrase, right? And some of them are people I don't know, and then some of them are people that I do
Yeah.
know, and so it becomes like a little maybe diary for me too.
I think in the newsletter, follow-up to this, if it's okay, I'll share some of the ones that you gave me of when we were on our Zoom and you illustrated what I said to you about
Oh
queer people
yeah.
being elastic and things like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, yeah, because those are the overlap ones.
Yeah,
Can't really
and
read it. Yeah.
I just saw David Clark has joined, and he said during, the pandemic, I think you had a Zoom conversation and you illustrated something from him, and you mentioned that you've done that as well. That's not just, like, on the subway or walking down the street. You sometimes have had conversations as long as you're actually engaging with the person.
Yeah. Hi, David. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so David was game to allow me to interview him on Zoom during the lockdown because I wasn't able to go outside and hear quotes. And I was literally like I had my windows open and I was just looking for people outside washing their car or walking their dog. I'm not kidding. And some of the drawings get very very terse in language. Like one of them is just hello, hello. And it was someone on the back deck like announcing themselves before they, knocked on someone's door, right? And then I had a light bulb epiphany. Actually, it was a stranger on Instagram. A stranger reached out and asked how I was getting quotes during the pandemic, and I had a light bulb. I thought, oh, I have to interview this person and talk to her. Turns out it was an educator in Winnipeg, Canada, and she was my first call, and David was, I believe, my second.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. And so I started curating folks from Instagram and social media that I had not met, but I thought we could be friends or we would, connect in real life, right? And so David, I had been a long-term supporter of my drawings on Instagram. And I knew that David was doing interesting things in New York in terms of theater and pop culture and awareness. And so I reached out to David and was like, "Do you want to talk?" And David was like, "Sure." Yeah. So then those became larger, like visual essays of how people were grappling with the pandemic. But yes, that was a long answer, but it's very good to see David. I can see David on the live chat. Hi, David.
I, Well, we talked about meeting in real life. I'm going to be in Chicago in June, so we'll have to set something up. I also, anybody who's curious, the next AWP conference in 2027 is also going to be in Chicago. So
Oh,
we'll
wonderful. Yeah.
actually, we'll have to talk because you should bring some of your books to that as well. So
Oh,
it's a
that's
great.
great. And it went well this time?
Yeah, I mean the situation at AWP is overwhelming, but it is so heartwarming. It's so gratifying. I met so many new people. I actually met a guy who made these other little zines. These are all little history things that he's done. I'm going to be talking to Ben Everman, who's the author of these I think next Sunday. So if anybody wants to join, this one's called The Pansy Craze. And anyway,
I
he's like just, made these little art books, all with history and some illustrations and images. So I think he works at a library. Actually, I'll do more research by next week. But we met at that. I met a lot of other people. Like it's just more connections, more it's a really fulfilling experience. I mean, just as you were saying, making friends through social media, as much as we hate on social media, especially the toxic side of it, what I've really enjoyed is being able to have these conversations, being able to meet new people. I didn't know Michael Horvitz, for example, before Substack, and now we've created this great relationship, and we've published pieces of his Career Love project. Um, and now we're doing this. Like, I don't know. I'm a nerd for this stuff. So
love it. It's very rhizomatic, right? It's like you can pull a thread in one arena and it takes you somewhere you didn't know, and then it opens up another possibility.
mhm.
I do love that about with all the critiques and this and that. It is nice to connect with like-minded folks who you vibe with.
Yeah.
It's a way to find your people and your community. And I also love what you're doing with the Queer Love Project because you are doing that. I mean, you're meeting folks in one situation, you're inviting them into another space, right? And then that becomes another permutation and another. So one thing turns into something unexpected and lovely, and then it grows, right?
Well, I think what you said earlier about how you still have this love for the analog, and luckily the kids these days seem to as well. So I like taking what we're doing on the digital side and bringing it into a physical world, and I think that that's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Any kind of crossover. Let's keep it fluid.
Let's keep it fluid. Well, Mark, we have had, as you said, this is just going to have to be part one, and then part two, we'll get into the next level of therapy when we talk about our art addictions and our paper printed matter addictions.
Printed matter, and also growing up gay in the South, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's another, that could be its own like mini panel, you
yeah.
know?
No, we'll have to do.
Yeah. Because
You're already giving me ideas. Now we're going to have a series about that. I'm actually next month. I have a workshop that I'm doing in Nashville on April 25th at a place called The Porch. So it's my first uh, a generative writing workshop with people, and then we're going to have an event in Nashville in April. So that's going to be fun. I'm actually doing a whole southern trip. I'm going to be in Atlanta and then visiting my family in Valdosta, Georgia. I'll be in Chattanooga, but the culmination is the Nashville experience. So anybody who is in Tennessee or nearby and wants to come join April 25th in Nashville, we will not be in the crazy parts. It'll be the fun parts of Nashville because Nashville's out of control. But and remind me where you grew up.
I grew up in Fayette County, Fayetteville, which is just uh just south of the I will always say I grew up south of the airport,
Right.
right?
In
But
in Georgia.
in Georgia, yeah. And now it's wildly, it's grown into a little movie hub. There's a lot of like production coming out
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
Fayette County and Atlanta for sure, right? Yeah, I love the South. I love going back. It's an interesting space.
It's
Yeah,
what I always say, I get inspired by visiting, but it's not someplace I wanna live full time at the moment. So,
yeah, yeah. That's fair. I feel that. Yeah,
yeah. Alright.
yeah.
Well, Mark, thank you for joining me. Thank everybody else who's joined us
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
chat and for the live. And if you're not already a subscriber, go to queerloveproject.substack.com, and you'll be getting a newsletter with all of this and more, with more images and more Mark, Addison Smith greatness.
Thank you, Jerry, for inviting me. This is really lovely. It's great to talk to you, and I feel like we could just keep talking. So let's continue it later for sure.
Talk to you later.